United States is blessed with some of the most varied and beautiful environmental wonders in the world. It has everything from towering mountains, fertile plains, and pine forests, to trackless deserts, teeming wetlands, beautiful rivers and streams, and exotic shorelines. As this country's population continues to grow, so does concern for the environment. Human activity, if not properly managed, can overwhelm nature's ability to renew itself. Preventing this from happening is the prime intent of environmental laws. These laws and the procedures associated with them are based on decades of scientific investigation. There are two types of scientific documents that affect every project you work on: engineering plans and environmental documents. An environmental impact study or other environmental analysis, which is part of the project you may be working on right now, may have taken months or even years to prepare. Being aware of and following the procedures in the environmental documents is just as important as following engineering specifications. In fact, engineering specifications are often the direct result of environmental concerns. Environmental procedures may seem unnecessary, confusing, ponderous, or even counterproductive, but there's a reason for them. And environmental laws have teeth. Violating them can cost the state or contractor tens of thousands of dollars per day in fines and delays. You personally may not be immune either. Some environmental laws stipulate that any person who witnesses or even knows about an infraction of some environmental laws may be held personally accountable. Concern for the environment isn't limited to land, water, sea, and air. It also includes such things as protection of endangered species of plants and animals, preservation of historical resources, and respect for places and things of significance to other cultures, such as American Indians. Issues related to public involvement and quality of life are included as well. Limiting access to property or recreation, excessive noise, and obstruction of scenic views are all environmental concerns. These issues and others can have an effect on how you do your job. Construction inspectors, project managers, contractors, and maintenance personnel must be familiar with the environmental commitments relating to the projects they work on. They should coordinate with and keep in touch with whoever has jurisdiction over the land where the project is located. The agencies which have jurisdiction will know exactly what commitments were made to them, and they will have resource people visiting the project site. The extent of such commitments may vary greatly by jurisdiction. Construction personnel need to know what commitments were made, to whom they were made, and how they are to be satisfactorily met. This information may not be mentioned anywhere but in the environmental documents. Supervisors should know where this documentation is kept, usually in the project file, and communicate its content to all appropriate project personnel. For example, let's say the state is widening a road through federally managed land. The state has made a specific commitment to the federal agency to protect an endangered species of animal during construction. If any of these creatures are encountered, a specialist is to be called. Only that person has the necessary background to deal with the animal. To construction people, this animal may not seem very significant. Why go through the hassle of changing a large-scale construction operation for something like this? There are two very good reasons: the law and the commitment itself. The animal is on the endangered species list and is protected by law. The commitment itself is a promise between the state and the federal agency. Breaking a promise destroys trust between agencies. A violation of trust like this could take years to repair and could make it much more difficult to reach agreements in the future. Besides containing information about environmental commitments, the environmental documents for a project may also serve as reference material for special construction procedures. For instance, if the construction plan includes an unusually comprehensive approach to erosion control, perhaps a waterway or an archaeology site is being protected. The action called for may seem strange or unnecessary, but there's a reason for it, which is explained in the environmental documents. You should find out why the procedure is necessary and share that information. Usually contractors will be aware of any unusual construction procedures that might affect their bid price, but it doesn't hurt to check. Establishing good lines of communication between the contractor and agency personnel is in everyone's best interest. Working together, the contractor and agency may catch an error that could cost taxpayers a lot of money in fines, delays, or lawsuits. To stay in business, contractors have to anticipate changes and be ready for them in advance. Many contractors are already complying with environmental procedures which may not yet be in effect. For example, large construction equipment is so expensive to run and maintain that it's rarely removed from the job site. Routine maintenance, even changing engines, is done in the field. It is legal in some states to drain engine oil right out on the ground. But forward-looking contractors know that this practice will not be permitted much longer, and that it's simply not the right thing to do. So they're using new technology to pump used oil and coolants out of the equipment and replace them through the same lines. Not a drop is left in the environment. The used oil is then taken to a collection point and recycled. Even the oil filters are squeezed dry and recycled. As environmental law and good sense converge, contractors continue to seek creative and cost-effective ways to do justice to nature while staying competitive. In general, the best way to obey environmental law is to confine the effects of construction as much as possible to the construction site. For example, earth may have to be moved, but it can't be dumped into streams or allowed to erode into them. Any work done in waterways, even dry stream beds, has to be properly permitted. Chemicals are used in some construction materials. Trucks used to transport such materials can't be washed out where wash water and chemical residue can run off-site and contaminate earth or waterways. Dust is an inevitable byproduct of construction, but it has to be confined as much as possible to where it originates. Noise is also considered a type of pollution. Scheduling noisy activities to certain hours or using equipment that makes less noise are common ways to suppress it. Using noise shields and keeping equipment operating as quietly as possible should be done as well. It's also very important to make sure that all sources of construction materials have been approved. There have been instances when road materials were being taken from locations considered sacred by American Indians. These types of environmental concerns and many more are usually covered in the environmental documentation developed long before construction. But sometimes unexpected environmental issues are encountered during construction. If material thought to be hazardous is encountered during construction, work must be halted and the appropriate people must be contacted before proceeding. If the material turns out to be hazardous and construction is not stopped, the hazardous material could harm people and be spread to other locations. If you suspect something is hazardous, it's better to stop work and be wrong than continue to work and be right. Supervisors would rather be responsible for delays than injuries. The same is true of archaeology sites. If excavation turns up human remains or other archaeological resources, work in that area must be stopped. Archaeologists must be contacted to determine how to deal with what has been uncovered. Whatever's uncovered is not to be disturbed in any way. Moving anything or taking something from the site is a serious violation of the law and can result in fines and imprisonment. Certain construction activities can affect the environment more than others. Air quality and noise has to be controlled around rock crushing sites. this site is being operated properly. But notify the contractor if it looks like too much dust or noise is being produced at your location. In areas around batch plants, soil and water pollution has to be prevented as well. If permits are not filed or pertinent regulations are not met, the entire construction operation can be shut down. Shutdowns can cost the state, the contractor, or the taxpayer very significant amounts of money. As a general practice, it's best to minimize all types of disturbance, even within the construction area. Environments across the country differ greatly, and construction practices in one area may not be appropriate in another, but environmental laws apply everywhere. Agency and contractor personnel should use their good judgment and work together to minimize disturbance. For example, together they can decide the most desirable places to drive and park. Equipment operators, even pickup truck drivers, may not know that it's not okay to drive where they want to. They have to be told what the concerns are and helped to develop an environmental awareness. Ultimately, some environmental damage on a construction site may be unavoidable, but needless damage must be eliminated. Good communication with the contractor can eliminate a lot of these kinds of problems. State personnel should work with contractors as partners. Letting a contractor unwittingly do something wrong and then saying that's his tough luck is not good business, and it's not fair. It's best to have a meeting before the job, get acquainted, work things out, and plan an approach to any environmental eventuality. Of course, these meetings won't do much good unless the personnel attending them communicate what was decided to other appropriate personnel. Communication is the key between state and contractor, and between supervisors and others. Discussing environmental concerns in project safety meetings is one good way to get information out to field personnel. Keeping everyone aware of the project's environmental requirements can prevent a lot of headaches and save a lot of money. Sometimes, addressing environmental issues requires a judgment call. Inspectors are normally hesitant to stop construction because unjustified delays can cost the state a lot of money. But if there is a reason to believe that a construction procedure is damaging the environment, the inspector should have the authority to delay work. At the very least, the inspector should contact supervisory personnel. If the procedure in question is a violation of environmental law, it will cost a lot less to delay work than to pay the penalties for continuing work. Complying with environmental law is a significant responsibility of highway construction personnel, whether they work for government agencies or contractors. Their awareness of environmentally sound procedures will ensure not only that the law is obeyed, but also that our environment is properly protected.